It is Thursday, the 13th of November, 2020. It's going to be a far more lousy show than usual today, as I have nothing prepared. I've done a grave disservice to my four listeners, and for that, I'm sorry. On the flip side, though, the Masters is today. Dudes all over the place are going fucking berserk, and rightfully so, I must say. The joy, the splendor, all that other shit. All that and more on episode 49, the Tim Wakefield episode. Guy didn't post an ERA under 4 during the last 8 years of his career. Incredibly reliable, but isn't that like the extent of it, really? It's about it, right? 19 years in the league, too. It's not bad. I mean, I wish I had more to say about him, but it's about it. This is Complaints and Observations.
The greatest podcast hosted by someone who knows so precious little about almost everything. A journey into the mediocre mind of an exceptionally average person. This is Complaints and Observations with Dave LaPointe.
There's a tingling in my trousers, and it's not a good one.
I'm getting tired of sucking.
This is bogus. This is atrocious. Call a technical on him!
I put away a lot of beer by the time they figure this one out. That's why I'm drinking light beer from most. Not only does light taste great, but it's got a third less calories than their regular beer. And it's less filling.
Hey, what's going on here?
Who the hell is Dave LaPointe?
I'm thoroughly enjoying making the intro, like playing with audio. Way more fun than I thought it would be. I mean, I'm probably breaking all kinds of copyright laws and other bullshit, but it's fun. It's fun to put together. Evan's little thing in the beginning about a tingling in his trousers just makes me fucking laugh every time. And then I spent way too much time this morning on YouTube and totally forgot that Tommy Heinsohn did Miller Lite commercials in the 70s and 80s. I mean, the 70s, obviously, I didn't see, but the ones in the 80s, I remember pretty well. There's a great one of him and Bob Uecker looking for Haley's Comet in 1986. I remember that commercial vividly. Weird, huh? Anyway. But yeah, Tommy Heinsohn, what a bummer. I mean, look, the guy was 86. He had a hell of a run. He lived an incredibly full life. And very interesting guy. Heard Mike Gorman talk about him the other day. And you could really tell that Mike Gorman, I think he seemed, he was sad, obviously, because his friend passed away. But you could see it was almost a sense of relief. And what he said was that the last couple of months have been very difficult for Tommy. So it was, that's kind of what happens when you turn 86. These things are going to happen when you get to that age because, it's just what happens in life, unfortunately. So, and it's funny because I heard Fred Toucher on Touch on Rich this morning talking about Sean Connery, like complaining about how people kept saying, "Oh, it's fucking 2020. This year sucks. All these people are dying." And his point was, well, Sean Connery was 90. He had dementia for the last 3 years. Like, that's no way to live. Like, you shouldn't even be alive. It sucks. And he's 1,000% right. But, it allows you to kind of go back and look at things and appreciate a person's impact on your life. And again, it's interesting because it's same with Alex Trebek, where this guy was in your house constantly every night. Tommy Heinsohn, you think about him, and if you're into sports and you're into the Celtics, the guy was in your house, 8 months out of the year, 7 months out of the year, and making you laugh and making you think and being He was very good at commentary. And the thing is, he's a Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame coach. He was in broadcasting for 40 years. He did national broadcasts from, in the 70s and in the 80s. And then he's with the Celtics for 40 years doing broadcasts. And it's like, how the hell is he not in the Hall of Fame for that? Yeah, weird. It's too bad that they didn't think of that, before he died. Could have put him in. He could have enjoyed that too. But I mean, I assume posthumously he'll get in because now the NBA will feel bad that they didn't get him in before he died. But yeah, so it's interesting to kind of go back and watch some of the highlights to games that he did and yelling at the refs and stuff. And so I pulled a bunch of those clips. I must have had I think I called about 5 or 6 different clips that were funny, but those kind of putting them together in that string, and then the Miller Lite commercial was just like that thing is perfect. Those commercials were so good. The ad company who created the Miller Lite ads, just brilliant. Again, I love advertising. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's not even just not advertising per se. It's creating various ad campaigns and things like that. But you know, someday, one of these days, I'm going to meet somebody who owns a company and we're going to talk commercials. And I'll be like, look, I'll come up with a great commercial for you for free. For free. My limited abilities can have it for nothing. Yeah. Anyways, so rest in power, Tommy. Thank you so much. You meant a lot to a lot of people, so thank you. Appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of other people appreciate it too. I mentioned my buddy Evan. The second half of the wonderful interview that Evan and I did will be coming up later on. It's going to start out rather abruptly talking about how America needs to slow down its drinking. Very interesting, very very interesting and enjoyable. I was listening to it again this morning, so I hope you enjoyed the first one, the first half, and I hope you enjoyed the second half. So we'll see. If you did, let me know because I'd really love to have Evan back on the show at some point. I'm sure I will, just because I like to talk to him, and I don't really care what what you want because it's my show. See that? It doesn't make a ton of sense, right? Anyways, the Masters started this morning with a shit ton of rain, so I'm sure the course will be in tremendous shape come this afternoon. From read it's going to be very cloudy off and on today, a little bit of sprinkles and whatnot, and it's supposed to clear up by the end of the weekend. But tomorrow might be another wet day, so we'll see. The first thing I did read was Bryson DeChambeau with a 3-wood off the tee at 10 and carried it 320 yards in the air. I'm like, fuck this guy. Goddamn fucking Hercules playing golf, for Christ's sakes. I mean, what's with this dude? He's weird and he's jacked. It's unfair. Although I find the golf establishment, the way that they look at him, I find that very, very interesting and very funny because it's, oh, he shouldn't be doing that. I can't believe he can do that. Can't believe he ate a ton of fucking food, got fat and jacked, and now can crush the ball a mile. Oh, weird, huh? Same fucking weird ass swing with his weird ass clubs. But I don't know. Look, I hope he does well. I hope he wins this thing just to fucking piss people off because it's funny. But as of right now, we are recording. It is roughly 11:30. Xander Schauffele has just taken the lead here early in the first round over 62-year-old Larry Mize, who's one shot back after 6. Fucking Larry Mize, he's 60 fucking 2. It's very funny though. Get a kick out of it with the old guys fucking get out there and That's slinging. That's what happens when you win this tournament. They invite you back every year. It's very interesting. The establishment at this place. I mean, we can get into that if you want, but it's kind of meh, you know. Yeah, Xander Schauffele. My poor brother wanted to put money on Schauffele, and this morning he told me at like, I don't know, 7:03. They teed off at 7, so the book took it off. So I couldn't put money on Schauffele to win. Of course, here he is, 3 birdies, first 3 holes. No good. No good. But I played a few. I have John Rahm as like my guy to win. Of course, John Rahm 2 over after 3, because that's how my luck, is. But I played a handful of long shots. Tony Finau to win. I'm sorry, to finish in the top 10. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out without supporters, without fans again. But honestly, this place, it's typically, they only let like 40,000 people in, so it's not like a raucous crowd by any means. So you would think that it would be somewhat quiet. And you hear a lot of these guys saying, "Oh, it's not going to be the same without the fans." Listen, one of my absolute dreams in life is to play 18 holes on a nice course by myself without fans. Without fans. Because typically when I play golf, I have a gallery following me around, right? You fucking numbnuts. What's the matter with you? Without not just fans, but just anybody around. All by myself on this course. 4 to 5 hours of silence, solitude, and putting massive divots all over the place. And I'd shoot a 59. All right, so as promised, here is the second half of my interview with my dear friend Evan Glasser, the co-founder of Nute Tools. I hope you enjoy the conversation. If you do, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. But yeah, here it comes. Well, commercial first, and then that. But be patient. You can skip the commercial if you want. I don't really care. But I have to put it in here. So yeah, alrighty.
I think that, like, America needs to dial back on its drinking. And I mean, the fact that, like, you can't, for example, advertise smoking, and like smoking is somehow like this. Like, it's like, are you kidding me? Like, like, I get it. Like, smoking does cause cancer, but like, it's become like I'm like, I obviously am not in, like, I don't smoke. I'm not endorsing tobacco. But what I am saying is, like, I'm sorry, but like, it is pretty similar to alcohol. And it's like, at some point, it's like, you get, I've seen mates of mine who are like, dude, I feel vilified sometimes for smoking,
Here's the thing. My relationship with smoking, I hate smoking. Hate it. And I honestly, I don't know why, but I hate it. It's the one thing about my wife that I literally cannot stand is that she smokes. It drives.
She smokes?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
My wife has been smoking since she was like, I think she said 11. So I mean, she's been smoking for 30 some odd years.
South Shore.
Oh, it's gross. I mean, honestly, I find the entire practice revolting. I always have. I think I always will. The smell, the look, everything. I don't know where it came from. Was my dad smoked, like, all growing up. My grandmother smoked. I don't know what it is about it, but for whatever reason, I find it just so incredibly disgusting.
But do you think that you should be allowed as an adult to smoke if you want?
You sure should, but you know what else? I think that the government should be allowed to tax the fuck out of it.
Oh, sure.
You know what? To me, every single vice should be taxed to the fucking hilt.
Yeah, I agree
You
with
know,
that.
tax the fuck out of
Decriminalize.
it. You know, that's right. Decriminalize everything, tax the shit out of it, and then I say spend the money wisely, but we all know that wouldn't happen. But
Well, fucking Colorado, dude,
oh
put all
my
their money
God,
into public school,
the amount of
and
money
now their
that
school
Colorado's
system's
made.
absolutely
Yeah,
terrific. Like
some of their school
the
districts
drug
have too
turned that
much.
state.
Some of them
Yeah,
have
but
too
yeah.
much money.
So now they're building home. Now they're fighting the homeless
That's right.
problem.
It's amazing.
It's
And
incredible,
why?
man.
Why?
All from
Because
illegal substance. Yeah,
they had
they
the
did it
fucking
perfectly.
monopoly. Right. They had the monopoly on legal weed. So you had people coming from all over the fucking country to spend money in their state.
Yeah, legit.
And they spent shit tons of money. A good friend of mine, a guy that I used to work for, he actually is a former college a buddy, roommate with John Hickenlooper, who was the
no way. The governor.
the governor of Colorado. So this was like right
It's a
around the
great name, by the
time
way, isn't it?
of John Hickenlooper. It's a
What a great
tremendous name.
Yeah.
Right around the time, right after they had legalized marijuana, and this guy was like, John is not. He's the last person that he ever thought would be into marijuana. He's never smoked marijuana. Like he just understood that it was the kind of thing that didn't need to be demonized, if you will, and he saw it as a way to make a shit ton of revenue.
Oh my
And that's
God.
exactly what happened.
And they weren't too greedy, man. Like you got like, the
No.
government in Massachusetts and the government in California especially is just like the taxes that they've levied on it. Like, I understand what you're saying when you say tax the shit out of it, but you don't want to tax the shit out of it too much because then it becomes like untenable. You know what I'm saying? And then you miss your market.
But will it though? If it's a vice, people are gonna want it. And if
So
they
for something like cigarettes, I would say tax the shit out of it because cigarettes, it's not possible for cigarettes really to go black market anymore. You know what I'm saying? Weed, on the other hand,
you're probably
you want to
right.
be careful with it.
I
Because like
just
cigarettes is like all right, where's like fucking what's it like Paul Moore isn't going to start fucking putting on a fucking leather jacket and standing on the street corner fucking offering to sell children fucking single cigarettes for
There you
like
go.
$5. I mean that's not going to happen, but like fucking and this is just me talking from a pure government policy perspective. Like I don't give a fuck. Like don't tax it or tax it. Like I'm still gonna if it's too expensive, me personally, I'm gonna still just go to the illegal people and buy that shit because those illegal people all of a sudden are operating on a much lesser level in the sense that like now this thing is actually legal. So it's rather than sort of like it being like, man, you're trafficking drugs. Now it's like, well, now you're just breaking sort of some kind of civil law.
Sure.
I'm sure there's more criminal shit with it as well. Still,
Most likely.
But like it just seems like it's just less intense. So like in terms of good government policy, you don't want to be too. And that's just my opinion. You don't want to be too greedy with the taxes.
And I certainly see your point. The counter to that is you're going to see people that, let's say, with cigarettes, they can get the single cigarettes from the guy in the leather jacket on the corner, but it's it's a flimsy, shitty quality tobacco. He goes home and he's like, I saved X number of dollars buying this, as opposed to going to the state dispensary and getting a higher quality product. To me, that's because look, growing up, trying to score weed was I don't want to say a challenge. It wasn't a challenge. The challenge was finding weed that wasn't trash. That was the challenge. Nowadays, and because of the home grower industry, like a buddy of mine, his dad, in the backyard next to his fucking tomato plants, is growing 9-foot fucking cannabis plants, and his weed kills me. I can't smoke it because it literally kills me. It's unbelievable, this shit. But that quality compared to 20 years ago when I was trying to find it is completely different. So to me, you're going to have the government regulation on it. You're going to have the higher taxation on it. And the counter is that you're going to get and here's the thing, you should get a better product if it's a government regulated product. Like I'm not gonna buy home whiskey from some clown when I can buy it at the liquor store. You see what I'm saying? I don't even know if I'm explaining it correctly, but to me, I think the quality would go down if you're buying it from these sub-level runners as opposed to buying it from the higher taxed legal entity, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I can
I can
think
see
that
both sides of the argument, though.
Yeah, I think like in terms of like cigarettes and in terms of like stuff that is highly processed, I suppose you could say. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you were going to talk about doing that for, say, like heroin, for example, I would totally agree. You know, it's like, look, like, you know, in order to get like a high level of heroin or good pure level of heroin, I mean, it's probably not that difficult per se, but if you can get some kind of like government agency essentially regulating that kind of heroin, you know, regulating the quantity, then I mean, as someone who doesn't necessarily do, well, let's just say cocaine, for example, because that's something that I would consider doing. You know what I'm saying? Again, you know, assuming it was legal, of course. So if, for example, the government could get me fucking like extremely pure cocaine, like I'd pay more for that than I would fucking pay some dope on the side, or you know, if I could get a certain guaranteed number that I could be guaranteed was legal, and I could never get in trouble for doing blah blah blah, then I'd pay the extra thing for the government.
And you don't know what you're getting. You don't know what you're getting.
Exactly. I mean, but ideally, you know, if you're going to be, I mean, ideally, you know what your cocaine deal is about. Otherwise, you're not going to them. But listen, let's not get into the let's not get into the coke deal, coke dealer relationship, because because that's a strange road to walk down, man. But my point being from this, I
don't know how that. Yeah, that's quite the left turn we took there.
Weed on the other hand, weed on the other hand, I think, or marijuana rather, on the other hand, is like very much a you know, they're these dudes that have just like spent their entire lives like growing weed, and like it doesn't, you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's a different process, like the growing to like the and it's a plant, so there's not really that much that actually needs to get synthesized in it. So like if you're saying, okay, like, and this is what I'm talking about in Massachusetts, for example, right? So in Massachusetts, sort of the average sort of like medicinal, let's just say, this is for people with a marijuana card, the average kind of ounce, roughly, give or take, is probably about like, you know, $250-ish. Dollars. And then commercial, you might even get that, number might go up to 280, 300 even, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can know some good local grower who is just around the area, especially down in like the West Coast, like California, you know, who can grow absolutely fireweed, which is the same quality that the distributor or the medical person, even though it's government regulated, like what the fuck did the government know? You know what I mean? Like you get cunts who have been doing this their entire lives, you know, and they just make these beautiful like plants. It's like this really strong shit. So, you know, if it's an easy thing to do in a lot of different markets to get really high quality weed significantly cheaper than the price that the government's selling. So it makes much more sense for someone who knows what they're doing to just say, fuck them. Like California, for example, man, like they just got so greedy with their taxes. Like and what that does is that ruins the whole thing, because like, and maybe that was deliberate. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I'm not claiming to jump in there.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me though, the way that California operates, man. It's a weird state. But like, so you get these people who would open dispensaries and then who just have to sell their weed for just ridiculously high prices, and then the standard dude in California has been buying weed off some dude for the past 20 years anyway. Right. So it's like, well, may as well just go back to the dude I was buying shit off.
And the guy that he's been buying from for 20 years has that level of experience that you said. I think it really depends on the market that you're at.
Precisely.
Where in California, that's a year-round, you know, growing season, whereas, you know, here in the South Shore of Massachusetts, you have a very short window. Soil sucks. It's, you know, rocky bullshit. The Pilgrims couldn't grow shit because the soil sucked so bad. They needed the Indians' help to teach them how to grow corn. Once that happened, okay, now they have corn, but completely different. I think it matters where the market is, and but your point is completely accurate, because if you're able to buy the same quality product from a guy that you've known and worked with for 20 years, who has that level of experience, that makes perfect sense. I can see that. There would have to be, I mean, I would imagine in California or down south and in the Carolinas, I don't think it's legal down there, but it's another quality market in terms of growing, I would assume, where you can have that
Well,
sort
you're
of
forgetting
longer
about
window.
indoor shit, right? You're
Yeah,
forgetting about the
yeah.
sort of stuff that I do. So like there's
Right.
there's greenhouses and there's there's temperature controlled areas, so growing these days is pretty much year round. And like these days, like there's a lot of hydroponics, especially in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But
does that
it's just
correlate?
it's just one of those markets, man.
And is that because
one of those products.
Yeah, I mean, are you seeing you said hydroponics in Massachusetts? Is that because of the climate here? So more people
Yeah,
are
precisely.
yeah, okay.
Precisely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's better to be indoors.
Yeah.
You have a tiny growing season in Massachusetts.
Right.
It's quite short. So if you're doing outdoors, you have that certain limited time. But some people obviously do indoor, personal stuff with soil. But some people do hydroponics, like my business partner Rob. This dude's an absolute genius. Like he just builds things like nobody's business.
Yeah.
He's the one that's definitely the brains behind the old outfit. God bless him. But yeah, man. I mean, it's just I mean, I love talking about this, man. Like, it's such an interesting, it's an interesting topic. It's an interesting industry. It's an interesting my thought, of course, is the fact that taxation on I think that back to decriminalization of drugs. I think that's you look at the countries where that's been successful, and I think that that's just for sure the way forward. And I mean, I think that it would make a lot of people very unhappy, because a lot of people make a lot of money off of the drug trade who might not necessarily be in the drug trade officially, but
right.
like essentially just what do you call it? What's the police accessories to the drug trade? Through whatever or another. Someone's getting greased here or there and stuff like that as well. And that money. Like I said, I think that a lot of people in very high places actually get paid money as a result of that thing. So it's sort of not necessarily in the interest to get. But you look at countries like Switzerland and countries like Portugal, for example, who've decriminalized most of their most hard drugs, and especially Portugal, they saw a pretty significant drop in crime, and surprisingly, the devil didn't appear, and hell didn't suddenly come out of the ground and everything catch fire. But
yeah, that's a great example about Portugal. They have
your family's Portuguese, right?
There is some Portuguese in there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my mother though keeps raining on my parade. As much as I love the Portuguese, she keeps telling me that I'm more and more French, and it just doesn't. It's not something I'm fond of, but. I love that you brought up Portugal though, and the way that they have decriminalized their drug. I mean, the number of drug-related crimes went way down. And then obviously there was the global economic crash back in '08, and they had a lot of changes. And I was reading an excellent article today about the Chinese investing a ton of money in Portugal. Like, really, I don't know how that came up and how I stumbled upon this article, but I found it incredibly fascinating. That really has nothing to do with what we were talking about, but this is how our conversations end up going. They're very
look at what China's doing.
Yeah,
and that no one probably knows about that. Really, and we ignore it. And this is sort of interesting circling. Coming back around to sort of America and sort of America in relation to other countries is one of the things that's extremely frustrating for me as a person who is American and who's lived overseas in different countries is the fact that a lot of the time, America doesn't, I suppose, recognize how important it is, or the people in America don't always recognize how important it is on a global scale, and in the sense of being they've created a world order that they fought for the past 30 years against, longer, 40, 50 years against the Soviet Union, and they've created a world order. And then all of a sudden, they've stepped back from it. So when there was the Soviet Union to be worried about, America essentially was always there, sort of backing up backing up Europe, backing up investing, doing all kinds of stuff in order to maintain its alliances and in order to sort of like create this system and network against the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
But the minute the Soviet Union fell, all of a sudden there became, less and less reason for America to really be looking after these things to the same level, other than just for regular profit. And
that's right. Yeah, that I like the way that you put that, for profit. You had the private sector recognized a vast new market, which is the same way they looked at
was born.
Yep, and it looked at the same way that the private sector looked at the Chinese market back in the day, and now it's all of a sudden coming back around where they vilified China for some weird reason. But look, I hate to break it to you, but you and your friends basically caused fucking China to become this massive global entity. I mean, you started buying cheap products from the Chinese, and next thing you know, so now you're mad at China for being successful. I mean, look, okay, it's a communist country. I get it. They're shitty when it comes to human rights and the way that they treat a variety of people, but most people in the private sector don't seem to give two shits about that, as long as they can turn a profit in their own business. So
look, and it's something that we had to deal with actually back at Nute, was sort of the concept of like, hey, like when we were starting off, we couldn't afford to buy American. Still can't. Which is not an issue with us in per se, that it's an issue with America. There needs to be subsidized, or there needs to be some form or another where you can like encourage. There needs to be some system for entrepreneurs to be able to start up a manufacturing business within the US. Otherwise, we're screwed. Yeah. Because all the new manufacturing, all the new ideas and everything's going to be built outside and then brought back into America if you're lucky. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, there's got to be some kind of, whether it be just sort of some form of like, factory unions almost, maybe lots of small companies get together, or there's companies that essentially help. There needs to be some form of innovation within our manufacturing, sector. But you hit the nail on the head, man. Globalism is just like cold hard like profit being like the underlying factor, and unfortunately, like we don't necessarily look at like because it's not because shareholders aren't interested particularly in long-term consequences. You're really looking for like quarterly profit. That's right. And then obviously the smart companies do look at that, and you look at like, for example, like Bezos now is, I do not respect this man, but I do, and actually this might be an interesting question to pose to you, because like Jeff Bezos is doing this crazy thing where he's like essentially making sure that Amazon is going to be like neutral, carbon neutral by 2025 or whatever it is, 2030 or something like that. So the question is like, that's the biggest conglomerate in the whole world, man. Like that company makes more money than a lot of countries, if not, a significant portion of countries. Yep. If he suddenly starts pushing his network of suppliers, that means like, that means everyone's going to have to go green. So this man, who I look at the way he's built his company by treating his employees like absolute garbage, by underpaying people, by, destroying local business, blah, 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 blah. If this man manages to make everything carbon neutral and bring us all sort of off and get into a point where, global warming can, and obviously this is, my political opinion here on global warming, but in order to sort of help the planet, like, does that mean that it was all worth it?
Wow. No, that's an interesting way to look at it. He's an interesting character, Jeff Bezos. And it's funny because Amazon, as well as they've done, they're still a relatively small percentage of the actual retail sales in the country. I want to say it's something like 3% or something like that. It's obnoxiously small in the grand scheme of things. However, it's that 3% is, I think, double their next competitor, which I think is Walmart. So, I mean, 3%.
They have a lot of money.
Yeah, a shit ton of money.
But in like they do like, it's really their like big data services, their web
that's the other thing too.
Them all their money.
AWS has fucking shot up like a goddamn cannon. So AWS, then all of their logistics network, it also has been moving product for.
Think about how much America shops, dude. Like
Oh,
Like we are
Jesus.
literally designed as Americans to consume things. Like from the day
Yeah.
you're out of the fucking womb,
Yeah.
you're literally blasted.
Especially now.
Fucking
Oh my God! I
yeah.
mean, Christ,
Oh, dude.
when I was a kid, growing up in the '80s, like we didn't have fucking any information took forever. If I
Did I
wanted
ever
to,
tell you that story about? Sorry to interrupt you.
no, that's all right.
Continue. Sorry, man. I just
No,
sort of had
no.
a thought.
Just my point was that information took forever. If I wanted to know something, I literally needed to either go into the basement and sift through the set of encyclopedias from 1965, or get on my bicycle and ride to the library and sort through their encyclopedias from 1985. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I mean, the difference is huge. Where and obviously, it was. And I read something. It was a meme today. It was something like, you know. What was it? Gen Zers have TikTok. Gen Xers had, or Gen Y had, uh, like MySpace, or I don't know. But the way that it was is like the different generations had different weird things, right? But
Yeah.
then the last one was baby boomers had a home, a pension,
Yeah.
and a lifetime of vacations on a minimum
Yeah.
wage salary. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, wow, holy shit, what a fucking difference. But it's weird how that has worked out and the way that things have gone. And now, like you said, where we're bred to consume constantly.
Yeah.
The minute we come
Yeah.
out
I
of the
mean, it's
womb.
interesting,
Yeah. What were
because
you
like,
gonna say? What was your story?
oh right, yeah. This is more back. Yeah. I mean, I thought. Yeah, this is a nice little anecdote. But I did have another thing to answer to your thing too. But my father told me a story like when he was like when he was doing his masters and he took the Trans-Siberian Railroad all
Oh,
the
is
way
that right?
across down and went down into East Germany.
Wow.
Or sorry, into East Berlin.
Yeah.
And then he told me all the stories about how he was he was on the train and this like Russian babushka came in during this period of time and just closed the blinds, and was so that he couldn't see what was going on out the window. So fascinating trip, he said. But he
Wow.
said that the minute he stepped over the border, minute he went into West Berlin, it was like getting hit in the face with advertisements.
Yeah.
And he suddenly realized that, like, that it was like, in the Soviet Union, there was chocolate 1 and chocolate 2. There was no, like, there was no, like, branding or anything because it was all state owned, what I'm saying?
Right.
Or if there even was 2 chocolates. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there was. There was definitely more than 2 vodkas.
Yeah,
But,
wow.
like, party vodka, but like, but he said he stepped over across the border into West Berlin, and it was like he was physically assaulted by the advertisements. And he
Wow, what a
difference.
cool trip. How old was he?
Interesting.
He was
Must have been like probably like my age.
University. He was still in university at the time.
Yeah, he did his PhD. So
oh, geez.
I think he probably would have been. Yeah, he's a smart guy. He did a PhD at the Australian National University.
Oh.
Which is not the best university, but he's great. Yeah, he's been a great role model throughout my life to look up to. Bloody saint. As I've told you,
you have, and
multiple times.
He gets to tell all of his scholarly friends that his son in America is a recruiter for a.
As a recruiter, real business owner, small business owner. Sketchy business owner.
That's right. Well, my son is a stoner. He just sells.
My son really likes talking about weed.
There you go.
I forgot what you were saying before. Actually, yeah.
No, we're really. I don't know. This is how our conversations always end up. It's very circuitous. It winds in and out, and talks about 20,000 different things, and we lose our train of thought. That's why I enjoy talking to you. It's incredibly fascinating. But I don't want to keep you all night long. So
I appreciate that.
I want to.
Obviously, I have better things to do.
You obviously do. You're a single man in the city in your late 20s.
In COVID, with a 10 p.m.
10 p.m. curfew. That's right.
It's a lot to do.
I forgot about that part. Yeah. I have
I'm heartbroken for the businesses, by the way. Like, this is it. This is the death knell.
I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so. I think, and you know what? I've had the opportunity to meet the governor multiple times before he was the governor. Okay.
Oh, really?
In a variety of functions.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. And he was not a politician by any means. He was a nice guy. I became very friendly with a state rep down in Plymouth when I was working for the baseball team. And so there were a couple of functions where this guy would have Charlie come in prior to his being elected. And so, the conversations were always they just felt, like normal conversations. They weren't very political. He had, opinionated, did not really seem to, it wasn't as if he was out shaking hands and kissing babies trying to win votes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have a sneaking suspicion that the guy has really, really thought this through to try to find solutions that are best, not just for the general public as a whole, but also for the business community. And the current thing with this 9:30 business, I really think that he probably wanted to cut it to maybe like 8 o'clock if I had to guess. But I think he struggled with it because the way that they've talked about how the cases have gone up, it hasn't been from the restaurants and the bars and things like that. It's been from the large gatherings that stupid college kids have been having, and Halloween parties. Because I'm sure we're going to see another spike after a bunch of dipshits had Halloween
I'm pretty
parties.
sure actually I did. I'm pretty sure I actually got COVID from a bar. I kissed some girl on St. Patty's Day, and the day after I was fucking couple days after I had it. So I think I was like the Tuesday. Yeah, I mean I'm not 100% sure I had it, but I had it. You know what I mean?
You had something.
I had something, and it wasn't normal.
Right.
But so it's just like I don't know, mate. Like
I think it's the best of a bad situation. I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. My sort of thought is, and again, like I've been talking with some people, and you've already seen bars like the Lear, Poorhouse,
a ton of them.
Greedy's, all of those bars are now closed and never
Right.
opening again. You know what I mean? Which is like heartbreaking on one hand, but on the other hand as well, like the bar scene in Boston was getting a little bit comfortable with itself. Like I feel like because of the way that liquor licenses are and how difficult it is, like they just can kind of like they get to a point and they rest on their loins and there's no more innovation. And that's always bad, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Competition's always bad.
And I think the other part of it is that the commercial property landlords, the way that they were crushing these businesses with their rents, they were operating on razor thin margins. So
margins, exactly.
They weren't making. They were making enough to stay open, and then. But again, the business chose to be in these particular locations. The business in that to me, if you want to open a bar, obviously want to be in a place where people are going to go to the bar. But an example that I like to use is there was an Irish bar over by Northeastern, Connor Larkin's. I don't know if you ever.
I know Connor Larkin's. I went there a lot. Yeah.
So Connor Larkin's was a college bar, right? It was also a fucking shithole.
Yeah,
right.
That is very true.
So you're not gonna if ever comes a time where the school's not open, people that live in the neighborhood aren't going to frequent your bar because it's a shithole. So you can't have it both ways. Do you want it to be a college bar where you're selling $2 drafts all the time and making money, or did you want to have both where you're gonna have if something were to happen, or if you just respect your business enough that you fucking clean the floors every now and again.
Yeah.
And that, to me, like, I feel bad on one hand, but on the other hand, I don't feel bad. You treated your business like a shithole.
Yeah.
And when something happened, you weren't ready for it. You could not adapt.
Yeah.
So you die, and that's what happened.
And that's capitalism, I suppose.
That's right.
Yeah, that's an argument. I think that's right. I think that there is a point to that.
You adapt or
Yeah,
you die. There's
yeah,
no gray there. And there's a lot of
yeah, man.
businesses that we've seen that have done just that. They've adapted and they've managed, some have managed to do even better than they were beforehand. So I mean, it's a matter of taking the challenge and seeing it for what it is. Look, this is something that my business is going to have to deal with if I want to continue to be in business. Like, I know McGreevy's, I read the story. Like, McGreevy's, the guy, the guys that own McGreevy's, they're fucking rich guys anyway. What the fuck
Yeah,
do
the
they
fucking
care?
Dropkick Murphys.
Yeah,
Or one of the dudes from the
one of the
Dropkick
guys,
Murphys. Yeah.
nice guy, another nice guy. In fact, I actually met Charlie Baker at McGreevy's one time.
All
Funny
right.
story, yeah, because they're chummy. Ken Casey from Dropkick Murphys and Charlie Baker, they're friends. Really odd,
Well,
odd
like
combo.
I think like the you know, I agree with you in theory, I
Yeah.
suppose. In practice, I'm not sure how far that
And
that
that's
can
and
go.
that's the thing. And
You know what I
I
mean?
acknowledge that, but again, I've seen a lot of businesses that have actually they've made changes to their business in order to survive. I keep saying that this whole thing is a bump in the road. It's granted it's going to be a year and a half, 2 years long for a bump, but it's not. We're not going to be in this forever. It's going to come to an end at some point. It's how you manage, your business, your life, your relationships, everything during that period of time is going to determine what and how you are when we come out of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that I do agree with you. I think that like, to some extent, personal responsibility is often like shirked by Americans especially, and they kind of like always looking, and myself included, like I'm not trying to holier than thou, like fuck responsibility, man. That's terrible. But like as men and as like human beings, I suppose is actually a better way of saying that. But like it's up. I feel like in my opinion, like at some point or another, like the people that hide from responsibility are sort of like young, or scared, and fuck it, man. Like I'm young and scared, but at some point or another, I've decided to turn around and face this, right? And so I agree. Within like a system, people complain about big industry. People complain about globalism, like we were talking about earlier. People complain about government. People complain and complain and complain. But at the end of the day, they're all there because of people. You know what I'm saying? So it's up to people to change it.
Yeah.
That being said, at the same time, like I said, in theory, that's all well and good. But in practice, that sort of philosophy can lead you into a pretty cold society.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because the question becomes, if you look at it from purely a perspective of profit, then absolutely, like it makes perfect sense. But like, if you look at it as a perspective of like, hey, like, what kind of society do we want to be? Do we want to be a society that essentially believes that, we should be, I suppose, like, letting by essentially like creating some form of like money focused social Darwinism, or and these people all have these businesses, and these businesses all employ people, and all those people who they employ have children, and fathers and mothers, and they might be needing them to support it.
Here's my thing. Like my empathy for these people is totally different than what I said about adapting or dying. Like, I feel terrible for all those people that you just mentioned. The guy who just pumped 30 years of his life into his business, and now his business is dead, and now him and his wife have to move, and they can't pay the kids' college bill or whatever. That stuff, to me, those are two different pieces of the pie. Because I mean, I can certainly see the point. Yeah.
Right. So you would say essentially, okay, like, right. So like, if the business fails, but that's where it stops, because at that point it's the government's responsibility to step in and essentially say, hey, like, we don't want you to not have to be able to, we don't want you to go bankrupt. We're going to provide you with like financial assistance or something.
To me, there had to be some sort of structure put into place to avoid a lot of these problems. So you see what happened you mentioned Germany earlier, the way that they've handled this thing. is that, look, don't go to work, but the government's going to pay you 70% of your salary so that you don't have to go to work. The government's going to, rent freeze for commercial rents for restaurants and theaters and things like that. There had to be something put into place to prevent chaos, which is what we're gonna see here. I think by the end of this thing is it's gonna be a fucking disaster.
That's my point. Yeah. And that's why I said that at the beginning of this sort of segment, so to speak, that I think that this is like the death knell. Maybe not in Massachusetts. I actually would be very interested to learn like where Massachusetts spends its tax revenue, because like to be quite candid with you, like Boston especially is just like an absolute in terms of its infrastructure, like is not good. Like it's not like the roads are a joke. The bridges, where does the money
old.
go?
Who the fuck
The public
knows?
transport is like the
Garbage.
T. They literally, it looks
garbage.
like they had like a 1940s train car and thought, you know what we should do? Let's replace that 1940s tram car with a 2006 tram car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like what do you like? I think some of the issues with the fact that like legitimately the tracks are so old.
They privatized it.
Yeah, mate. I mean, it's just like it's such like a I get taxed a fair bit, obviously,
Sure.
and I'm just curious as to where that goes. Because I don't necessarily see the benefits of it.
No, I mean, especially in the city,
in the infrastructure. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And like,
absolutely.
The T is still a mess.
It's gross. It's terrible.
The trains aren't good. I mean, the trains are fine, but like you look at like, for example, Europe trains, Asian trains.
That's a whole different.
There's just such a level above, and trains are such great ways of getting around.
Thank you. And that's all the thing. It's one of those things that I've always wondered, like, how the fuck have we screwed this up so bad?
And we like pioneered trains.
It's
like
America was like the first subway in the world was in Boston, Massachusetts.
What the fuck happened? Legit, I know. What happened? Why did we suddenly be like, you know what? Nah. Because we used to fucking like understand that like it was about like I'm just going to do a quick pitch throw in here because of this book that I read, and I'm going to love it. But essentially, I think that the government has not worked for the people for a very long time, and that's both sides of the aisle.
Yeah,
that's not me being partisan here.
No, and you are
fucking
10,000% correct,
bro. There's no interest in investing in the country because there's no. There's no money for special interests.
That's right. Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
Exactly.
Reading this really interesting book. You really like it. I think I talked to you about that the other day when we were grabbing.
I think you did too, and I think it's still in my Amazon.
I got it.
Amazon. It's still in my Amazon shopping cart.
Hey.
I haven't bought it yet. Maybe I'll. There's a new book site. I think it's like bookshelf.org.
Are you still reading *Sapiens*?
Yeah, I am. I just finished chapter 2.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm a terrible reader. I'm such a slow. It's not. I'm a slow reader. I'm a horribly slow reader.
Well, that's why I do the book on tapes.
Yeah.
I can just listen to it while I'm doing my a lot of my sales work, my admin and shit.
My focus would not be. I would start doing 20,000 other things. So that's why if I'm not sitting down and actually reading the book. We're supposed to go on vacation in a few weeks, so I'm very excited. I have 2 books that I have that I'm going to read. That's one of them. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. All right.
Wait, where are you going to
go? We're going to Antigua. We're going to Antigua.
Shit.
As of right now, the country's still open. We're still able to actually go. So knock on wood that in a few weeks we're actually able to do that. So we've been planning this for a couple of years. We booked it a couple of years ago. So the fact that we're finally able to go, fingers crossed.
That's awesome, man. Well, congrats.
Right. Thank you so much. Listen, I'm going to let you go. I want to do one thing.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds, I need you to tell my audience why they should get into rugby.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Rugby is like football, but free-flowing. There's no really annoying ad breaks, so you can pretty much just like watch a full game. There's a nice halftime, so you can go get your pint refilled. It's heavy contact. It's sort of like a much better version of soccer, like much better, like extremely better, and like no pads. And then the community around rugby is also absolutely terrific. Like everyone, there's an expression like rugby is a thugs game played by gentlemen. and that sort of conveys into the crowd, like sort of all the anxiety and stuff get worked out on the pitch, and as a result, like rugby fans are just like the best to drink with, the best to party with, all that kind of stuff. So, it's just the best sport when it comes
Love
down
it.
to that sort of thing.
That's awesome. What an ad. We should
What
make
an ad.
We should make an ad. That's
But
terrific.
wait, there's more. Order now.
Listen,
Thanks for having me on, man. This is really great.
Thanks
to speak
for
to you.
coming.
Yeah.
I as I've said, I thoroughly enjoy our conversations. I always, every single time I talk to you, by the time I'm done, I'm smarter than when I started. So
No, the feeling's mutual, man.
it is very much appreciated. So in the time that it took me to post the interview and to kind of organize the segments here, DeChambeau with a 7 on 13, so a double bogey, and DeChambeau shit in the bed already. So plus I had to get a bet in for my brother. He wanted Shoffley, and it actually posted live, so he put his money on Shoffley at plus 650. So and Shoffley thus far is doing pretty well. 3 birdies and 3 holes, as I mentioned. So we'll see. Again, it's Masters weekend. Can you do? One thing that I wanted to touch on before I got into more gambling, the Wendy's Twitter feed. If you're not familiar with Wendy's Twitter page, please go take a look at it because it's fucking hilarious. Like whoever is in charge here is fucking funny, very funny. So bravo, Wendy's. I have nothing really to say about it. Like the Iron Sheik tweeted something today. Or was it yesterday? Like for whatever reason, because there's another funny Twitter page, the Iron Sheik. I don't even think it's actually the Iron Sheik. I think it's one of his managers, but whatever. He said, "Hello, Wendy's. Where's the beef? Talk to me, Bubba." To which Wendy's replies, "Hey, Bubba, the beef is in our cheeseburgers, which are great, unlike that jabroni Hogan." It's just so good. It's so good. It's funny, it's just very funny, and I enjoy it. So, um, anyways, plus there's a bunch of other shit. Like people will tweet shit at Wendy's, like when something's wrong with their food. like, here's a picture of this chicken sandwich. It's fucking gross. There's mold on my bun. This one here about there was a fucking let's see. My mom was about to take a sip of her drink. She found receipts. Well, actually, receipts. It's supposed to say receipts, but the person spelled recipes. Eh. Anyways, she found receipts, paper towels, and plastic in her drink. And the picture is fucking awful. Oh, that's so funny. Oh boy. Anyways, do yourself a favor and go to the Wendy's Twitter page. It's very funny. Oh, there's an old picture of the salad bar or with the Wendy's garden spot. Oh man. Now look. It's probably not little known, but it's known. Your humble host's first real job was working in Wendy's at a brand new Wendy's, Rainham, Massachusetts, 1994. I was paid $4.75 an hour, which at the time was 50 cents more per hour than the minimum wage of 4.25. Why, you ask, did I get paid 50 cents more? Well, your boy decided that he was going to open the store Saturday and Sunday. So for an extra 50 cents per hour, I had to be at Wendy's at roughly 7:30 on Saturday and Sunday morning when I was 16 years old. I managed to do it for quite a while. It was pretty interesting. You go and you fucking sweep up the parking lot, wash the windows, change the trash, cut onions, cut tomatoes. You have your lunch at fucking 9:30 because the store opens at 10. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, like 9:30 to 10 was break time. The store opened at 10:30. Off we went. I was usually there till 2. Out. Yeah, Wendy's. Good time. It's a good time. It was a bunch of, it was a bunch of kids, really. And did that for, I think I did that for like a year and a half or so. Then I went to a far shittier fast food establishment in a mall, which was fucking cool. A lot of chicks. Yeah, chicks, man. But yeah, the garden spot. There was like one person who was in charge of like filling the salad bar, the garden spot. I'm sorry, every day. So you had to change the ice. And when you look back on it now, like, good God, is that not at all sanitary? That's probably why there was no Rona back in the early '80s. And somebody underneath that picture, I got the worst food poisoning I've ever had from one. Ugh, get out of here, fucking clown show. Yeah, how about that for a little way back machine? 1994, great year, man. '90s, the '90s were terrific. Big fan of the '90s, huh? Yeah. Anyways, let's talk gambling. So the best bets from last week, all three of us lost. So the records on the season, Scott Banksley still holding a commanding lead at 6-2-1. Myself and Jackie Fraudley Jr. I apologize, coming in at 3-6, 3.5 games back. Scott will probably have this wrapped up in a couple of weeks. So, Scott's best bet, the 49ers plus 10. Dave's best bet is the Saints, the 49ers opponent, minus 10. I told him that I was taking the Saints, and Scott instantly chimed in, I'll take the opposite. Fuck you, Scott. The thing is he's probably going to win, so yeah. And then Jack went with the Titans minus 1 tonight. So he's back on the Thursday night bandwagon for some reason. I think the Titans, I don't hate that pick. I think the Titans win. I think they're pissed off that they lost last week, so curious to see how that goes. But so yeah, anyways, look, watch golf this weekend. Get very excited. Should be fun. The Patriots, I don't know what they're going to do. They're probably going to give up 8,000 yards on the ground to Baltimore, so see how that goes. But I hope you enjoyed today's show. Hopefully the interview was better than the rest of the show, because the rest of the show is terrible. Talked about too much golf. I hope you enjoyed my intro, the intro music. It's just fun. I enjoy doing it. But that's it. Listen, you can go to the Twitter page at Complaints Pod, and go to the Facebook page, which I don't really do much with, but because fuck Facebook. YouTube page I don't do anything with. I have an email address, showmail@complaintsandobservations.com. There's a call-in line, 617-65-RIP'em. Give me a call, leave a voicemail, be on the show. I also have an Instagram page at Complaints Pod, where you can enter to win some free swag. The giveaway will be Monday. I will announce the winner on the show on Monday. I will probably post a video with the cool thing. There's like a website where you can like put in a bunch of names, and it's like a wheel, and it'll spin and show you like who won. So that's going to take up some time. Probably have to do that on Sunday, but yeah, that's it. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you very much for listening. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Godspeed. Ta-ta.